Hello, my name is John Picton. I'm a lecturer in law at the University of Liverpool, and I'm the co-editor of Debates in Charity Law, which I co-edited with my colleague Jen Sigerfoos. In my chapter, which is called Regulating Egoism in Perpetuity, I argue that a donor that tries to establish a perpetual trust, that is one that lasts forever, a perpetual foundation, is in a very weak position in relation to the law, and therefore the law can take an interventionist attitude and change the terms of their trust well after their death. So the donor shouldn't have a strong right to set the terms and conditions of a trust forever. I argue that this is true through economic theory. Two economic theories of giving. The first is altruistic theory, and that is where the motivation for giving is pleasure in the consumption of someone else. So imagine buying dinner for an ungrateful child, the child's screaming, the child's unhappy, and yet you still take pleasure in that child's consumption. Why? Because essentially you've merged your wants and desires with someone else, and that's altruistic giving. Egoistic giving is everything that is not that. So egoistic giving is, say, a motivation to buy the dinner to impress the child's parents, to get a cute thank you, or most interesting of all, to see an objective sense of your own goodness reflected back at you. And I say that the desire to establish perpetual trust is egoistic. What the donor normally is trying to do is project their character and values into the future. They're trying to achieve a type of legal immortality. And there's some very striking cases, some choice cases, perhaps most famously of all, McCagan University of Glasgow, where a landowner tried to establish perpetual trust. He was unsuccessful, but established perpetual trust, building images of himself, statues of himself, apparently in ceaseless numbers in perpetuity. So there's a very clear case of egoism connected with perpetuity. There's no desire here for other people to benefit. There's no pleasure in the happiness of others. And so if all perpetual trusts are in some way like this, it should be noted that the law is in a very strong position. The law is in a very powerful position because the law is allowing donors to project their values and character into the future. And in doing that, it's creating something that donors just cannot do by themselves. So the law is able to set terms. And this means that where an egoistic donor has created a low utility, vain, egoistic trust, there should be no legal qualms in stepping in and trying to reform that trust. All the power or the cards are stacked on the side of the law. The donor has to fit their gift into whatever the law will give them. The only concern is that if donors know that their vision might be reformed in the future, they might be deterred from giving, because if they feel there's a complete denial of their ability to project themselves into the future, then they might not bother. So there's a point at which donors might give up. And so I argue in the chapter essentially for a type of compromise. It's one that I take from J.S. Mill, where he argues in the 19th century, where this was actually a very live political issue, the length of charitable trust, the duration of charitable trust. He argues that there should be a time limitation. There should be a period of time in which donors are able to lock up their values, and then after that it's open season. After that, the law should jump in and reform the terms of the donor's trust.